No! If that was any indication of how pulling wire for lights will go, wish us luck. As we battle with the bees and pretend to be electricians, in this video we are pulling all the wire for our lighting, both exterior and interior.
Jeez, that was hitting me right in the head.
Now that all of our receptacle wiring has been pulled and fastened, it is time to take the first step into replacing these temporary lights with real garage strip lights. We are going to be starting our lighting wiring today. I'm going to be using all 14 gauge wire for the lighting circuits. There's really no need to run anything else, especially with modern day LED lights that draw almost no power. And actually, I'm only going to be running 2 breakers for all the lighting in this whole house. One for the first floor, one for the second floor. I've actually added up all of the current draws from all the lights we're using, and it's like fractions of an amp per LED light. So there's just no need to put more breakers in than really needed. And the reason I've separated the lighting from the receptacle circuit breakers is so that if we ever trip a circuit breaker with a receptacle from plugging something in, we still have lights. And it also keeps things straighter in my head anyway when all the lighting is on white 14 gauge wire and all the receptacles are in yellow 12 gauge wire. For a novice in house wiring, that is definitely a plus to have everything sort of color coded. And of course I am starting with an actual 2D plan made on Chief Architect, as all my other plans have been, where I've sort of laid out all the lighting, how it's all interconnected, the type of switches we're using. That really helped me inform what materials I needed to buy as far as how many boxes I needed to get, the type of wire, the approximate lengths of the wire I was gonna need to run. So that really helped a lot, and I'm excited to get started on it. Here's the plan for the garage circuit lighting. The garage is essentially split into 2 halves by this wall here with this big wide door opening. There's a front and a back half. I'm gonna keep these on the same circuit, but I am gonna have 2 different home runs, one for the front, one for the back. However, I'm gonna be double tapping those into 1 circuit breaker, which is completely legal with the type of circuit breakers I have. It's rated for it. It's got 2 separate outlets. But I've already done the rough pull for these wires. It's 14-2 wire to the switch boxes, and then I'm taking 14-2 from the switches to the lighting circuits. I just have LED strip lights in here. We have 1 can fan in the bathroom, a bathroom sconce, and then an overhead strip in the utility room behind me. In the front garage, there's 3 long strip lights and 1 can in the corner. That's all there is for lighting on this first floor. On the exterior, there are some sconces between the garage doors. There's 3 in the front, 2 on the side, and 1 by the deck door on the back. But in total, it's really not much lighting load. It's going to be plenty for 1 15 amp circuit breaker, which of course we can't use more than 12 amps continuously. The back garage was really easy because it's just normal switches. I just need to get power to the switch box and then a power feed from the switch to the lights and daisy chain the lights together. In the front garage, however, we are going to be putting a 3-way switch to control these lights in. 1 by the side door over there and then 1 at the front door. This is because we anticipate a future addition over there, so we want to be able to control the garage lights from the door closest to the addition. But right now we're going to be using the front door mostly, so we want to be able to control them from there as well. The front door is also close to the stairs going up. So as you come down the stairs in the morning, we want to be able to turn the lights on without going all the way across the garage. 3-ways are a little bit trickier, but honestly they're super simple. It's really getting power to 1 of the light boxes, linking the 2 light boxes with a 3 conductor wire, and then going from that second light box to the lights with a regular 2 conductor wire. I've never wired one of these before, but of course I've done my research on it and it's really not that complicated at all. We'll be doing the same thing on the stairs as well. You have to have a lighting circuit on stairs controlled from both the top and the bottom. Obviously that means a 3-way switch. So what I'm finishing now is pulling this 14 3-gauge wire from that switch box way over there, goes up into the ceiling and then all the way back towards me. It's going to this 4-gang switch over here by the door, and that will contain 1 of the 3-way switches for the main lights. Then we'll take 2 conductor wire all the way basically back along the same path, and we'll be hitting 3 lighting boxes down the garage. It's these little guys that look like receptacle boxes, but they're actually going to be wired to garage strip lighting. So I finished that wire pull. This is the 14-3 coming from the other switch, the 14-2 coming to the overhead lights, and then I just pulled one, just little 14-2 run to the garage ventilation fan. 2 more wires that gotta come out of this box. One is going to go to the exterior lights. We have the 3 sconces on the front, and then another one's gonna go up to an outlet that we have in the soffit. It's gonna be on the same switch as the exterior light, so it's gonna be a switched receptacle. That is for Christmas lights, so don't forget to put that in if you're building a new house. Outlet in the soffit for Christmas lights, and make it switched. Don't mind this mess of wires. This is all gonna be nice and tidy like these 12-2 wires are now. This just makes it... Hey, I'm filming, George. It's just a lot easier to pull everything in sort of a rough, loose format, leave plenty of slack, and then tidy everything up and trim it all back, staple it properly to code, and then everything's nice and neat. I feel like that's the most efficient way to go. These are the 2 soffit boxes that we put in before the soffit got put on, and luckily I had the foresight to put some pull strings in them to make pulling this wire easier. And the reason there's 2 boxes is one's gonna be a camera, one's gonna be an outlet for Christmas lights. So I'm gonna do the far one as the Christmas light outlet. I just have these pull strings duct taped in here with some cheated duct tape. Guess that's all I had on hand at the moment. And the idea is I'm just going to electrical tape this wire to that pull string, shove the wire up through the box, and we should be able to pull it out in the attic where I already drilled a hole. If it slips off, then that would not be good, because there would be no way to get the pull string back in the box. Then I'd be figuring out how to rig up a fish tape to get back into the box or get back into the attic. That would be really fun. So let's just avoid that and put a heck of a lot of tape on this. Tape is cheap. Now we won't be able to follow code to the letter as far as stapling this is, because we've already got this soffit. The code is that I need to staple within 12 inches of this box. By the time we get into the attic, it's probably gonna be more like 16, but I don't really see this as a major safety hazard, especially just being used for Christmas lights. Not gonna be anything too crazy as far as current being pulled from this wire. Oh, there's a bee's nest in here. Oh my gosh. Oh, he's not happy. Damn it. I should have covered these. He is really not happy. I don't have any bee spray with me. I stuck my hand up there and everything. That's what happens when you wait too long between your soffit and electrical rough-in. You're dealing with freaking bees. I'm gonna have to evict this guy somehow. With a stick, maybe? This could go bad very, very quickly. He's sitting inside the box. Oh, I wish I had bee spray. Need a fly swatter or something. No! No! The freaking pull string fell out. Oh my gosh. No. Well, I got the bee's nest out. Gosh, that's a bummer. Oh. How the heck? I'm gonna have to fish something up there. Gosh darn it. Okay, hopefully this isn't too bad. If I can see what the heck is going on in here. I don't know what the odds are of actually making this work. I can't see a darn thing in there, it's too dark. I wonder if I could somehow pull a pull string with this other one. Unfortunately, these are mounted. Well, it looks to be on 2 different sides of the same rafter. This box is outside the width of the house, so it's definitely got to come over and then in. How to make that happen though? It's a good question. With this soffit on, it's easier said than done. Ah, gosh, stupid bee. Nothing ever goes like you plan. That's for sure. Thank goodness for that second pull string. I was able to feed a piece of scrap wire from the right box to the left box, pull a pull string between the 2 boxes, and then I linked them together with the black tape here. That should allow me to pull the 14 gauge wire through this box, plus another really long pull string through this box. And at the top, I'll end up with both the wire and a pull string going into the left box that I can use for my Ethernet cable for the security camera. That was a little bit of thinking, but turned out okay. Thankfully, had that second box here. And that's the very cramped way back attic space where that pull string is going to come through. You can see I have that 3/4 inch hole drilled in the floor. That is where the 14 gauge wire is going to come down to that switch. The Ethernet wire, I'm not sure where that's going to go yet, but it's got to end up in the living room. There's only like a foot of this thing hanging out. It just barely made it. Definitely can't let go of this guy. There's my splice from pull string to pull string. Wire should be shortly thereafter. Oh my gosh, there we go. We got a wire and a pull string. Life is good. No, I just can't pull that pull string too far because then it's gonna run out of length and then I'll be really hosed. Got about 4 feet or so that it can go. I can pull the wire pretty far. Make sure that doesn't pull out on me. I'm just gonna undo this and make sure I wrap it around something good so it does not fall back through the hole. This is my plan for the outdoor light blocks for our garage sconces. I have some weatherproof aluminum boxes that surface mount to the wall with just a couple screws. So I'll try to land one of those screws on a stud if I can, and then I'm gonna drill a hole right in the center of the box. There's a hole in the back of it. I was thinking I needed a Romex connector on that, but I really don't think I do. Actually, I just need to make sure it's stapled on the inside of the wall. And then I'm going to seal this hole up really nicely around the wires coming in. Same thing with the box. I'll put a bead of sealant around the back of the box before I put it on the wall. The first step on these outdoor boxes is to seal these little plugs with Lexel. That's a high quality sealant. The box says silicone, but Lexel is actually better in my opinion. So I'm just smearing a little bit on the threads of each plug and then threading that into the box itself. Just wipe that excess off on this box. This is Zip liquid flash that I'm using to seal the wires up. Very durable sealant that is meant to be used with the Zip system. Not only will I put this liquid flash around these wires to help seal them up, but I'm going to sort of put a giant bead around where this box is gonna sit too. So I'm gonna essentially glue the box to the wall with this, and it will also weather seal it at the same time so water can't get behind it. Have my head flashing for that anyway, so it shouldn't make that big of a difference, but. And then I'm using just some little 1 5/8" exterior screws. Quite a bit of squeeze out on that one, including in the center. I might need to wipe that off, but that is a heck of an air seal, that's for sure, even between the wires and everything. The only other thing to make sure of is that I have a staple within 12 inches of the box on the inside. This one's pretty close. This one's definitely within 12, but that's an NEC code requirement. And I'm gonna seal this guy up too here from the inside with some big stretch. Big stretch is what I'm using for all of the top and bottom plate sealing, all the wires and pipes coming through the floor platform. And so I'll do that here just as a belt and suspenders as well. Here's one of these boxes that's all cured already. That thing is solid as a rock. So I've been wiring up a storm. I'm gonna be taming that mess down there a little bit later, but before it gets too dark, I wanna lay out our lighting up here. So I've got my interior designer here present, and we are going to mark the can locations on the floor, and then I have a laser that can project the dot straight up to the ceiling. That way we can have those dots on the floor sort of during rough-in, and then after we put sheetrock up, we can just put our laser right back at the same dot, drill a hole straight up, and we're gonna have a wire there for the can lights. That will be the plan. So we got to lay the things out to start though. And we did use our chief architect model to lay them out sort of 2D with a good rendering to get us a good idea of like the amount of light we want in each room. Really the more light the better, but we're gonna do our best to sort of emulate that model here on the floor plan. In general, our can layout philosophy is going to be essentially equidistant from the walls. So we found our center and then we essentially split that in half to give us our can measurements, this way from the wall, this way from the wall, and then we're leaving little marks on the ground. This one's probably kind of tough to see, but it's a plus sign there, and I'm gonna record these measurements and Chief Architect as well. But then this little laser right here, if we set that on our mark, turn that on, boom, we got a dot. So I'll know to rough in just a length of 14 gauge wire up here, just so that we have plenty of slack to work with. And then we'll be building a box out of Sega Myrex to maintain our air control layer, our vapor control layer at the ceiling plane there with some rock wool stuffed inside of it. Then when sheetrock's done, we'll come back and hole saw out where that dot is, and that way we don't damage our air control layer. Much more to come on that in the Sega video.
Now we're moving on to the light in the laundry. So this is just gonna be centered, very basic.
Big 8-inch recessed can. Should have plenty of light for what we need in the laundry nook. I believe this is like 64 inches wide, around 64 and a half. So 32 and a quarter is centered in the rough framing. 32 and a quarter also happens to be right on this joist. And we probably want to offset this to the front a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we don't really care about the back of the machines being lit up.
That's true.
So this is
good.
39 inches, so 3'3". I think if we put it at like
24 inches.
24, no, I was thinking more like 28. Put that, oh shoot, and of course there's probably a stud right at our midpoint. What did we say our midpoint was, 32? Yeah, of course, I didn't even think about that, but luckily the Halo cans are less than a 1/2 inch thick, so you can put them right over top of a stud. You can just drill a hole and they still sit flat up against a stud. So even if there's a joist or something in the way, doesn't matter. The can is thin enough that it doesn't matter.
I think it should go at least to here, maybe. Is that too far?
Too far in? No, it's probably not. So you think you want to center it on?
Because it's 8 inches, it's pretty wide.
It is wide. So that's, okay, so let's go to 26 inches. I said 28 to start.
Yeah, but you had your tape measure flipped the opposite way, but that's fine. Yes, 26 is fine. So 8 inches, measure an 8-inch diameter. Yeah, that's not even that big, but that's good. Cool.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that'll be good. Cool. Perfect.
Okay.
I will mark that with marker.
After marking all the light locations, it was time to start drilling. Luckily, we could run most wire on top of the ceiling joist, but we did have to go through walls and top plates for switches.
Jeez, that was hitting me right in the head. That would have been bad.
The lowered bathroom ceiling also made it easy to wire without any drilling because we could just go above the ceiling joist.
You're gonna need a ladder.
You asked me, shouldn't I? This way. Okay. I've seen before electricians will just leave like a long loop for the can lights basically and then shove it up there, and then once the drywall hole is cut, they'll just pull that loop out and then snip it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
All right, we're burning the midnight oil here trying to get this wiring done. Inspection's in like 3 days. Finished up the can light circuit up there, the fan, the closet, got a little light in that attic over there. starting to get some of the other cable that we pulled kind of dressed up, got our service loops in here. These are probably going to be a controversial item in the comments as far as the service loops go. I think they're a good idea. Just in 10, 20 years, we go to renovate this bathroom or something like that, and you accidentally nick a wire in this box, you got a few inches you can pull in. If the box needs to move a little bit, maybe after we put drywall on or something, it's not the end of the world, we can figure that out. How are you feeling about wiring, our little electrician foreman?
I am glad that we got what we planned to do done today, but it definitely took a lot longer than we were hoping, which is just the common theme, but I'm learning a lot through the process.
Yep, she's acting like a real electrician over here. She's telling me how to wire.
We had to fix a couple things because I caught a couple things, which makes me feel good, but we did have to fix some things.
Yeah, for example, we had 5 wires running to this box, and then we realized that that probably exceeds the fill calc for this box, and I went and looked it up, and lo and behold, it did. So we had to, one of them was a power running to across the hall, so we instead powered that from our laundry light switch, and just a couple other random things like that. But we still got to clean up all this excess wiring, get this all stapled up nice and neatly, and we'll be good to go. I also got a little circuit going on up in the attic. That's a light switch there at the top of the hatch, and then that goes all the way down. I'm gonna have a couple more lights just for kind of service lights as we try to work up there in the future. It's very little space up there. It's like crawl space, so hopefully we never have to go up there too much, but it'll be nice to have lights if we do. We also got to start on our smoke alarm circuits. That is a smoke alarm here in the primary bedroom. There's another one in the hallway, and can't see it, it's too dark, but there's another one in that bedroom. There is power running to that center one, is with the 14-2 wire coming up from the bathroom switch, and then from there we have a 14-3 wire basically linking the other two, and then we have another one all the way basically out by that window way out there. That's kind of at the top of the stairs on the outside. We'll link it to that one, and then we have 3 more underneath in the garage, in the front garage, back garage, and then the utility room down there that will link as well. Those will all be daisy chained together so that when one goes off, that third conductor and the 14-3 wire signals the rest to all go off too. So you cannot miss it when one of these things is going off. We're getting back after it today. Another long day of wiring ahead of us, but we're starting here on the main living area side. So kitchen, living, dining. Yesterday we were able to get the bedrooms, bath, and hall wrapped up. So there's a lot of cans out here. That's gonna be kind of a pain. A lot of ceiling fixtures in general, and we have 3 pairs of 3-way switches. So this is the beginning. This is sort of our main control box here in the center of the hallway. It's a 4-gang box, 3-way switches to the main cans, dining room cans. It controls the dining room chandelier and a hall bedroom light. So there's a lot of wires that's gonna have to come in here. So we're just trying to keep it as neat as possible as we're going. That way it doesn't get too confusing. And we're also labeling all the circuits with Sharpie as we go. I'm sure pro electricians don't need to do this, but we definitely do. So overall, we're making good headway. Hopefully, we can get done this today. These are for our floodlights on the back side. We're doing 1 in each corner. So one of these wires runs all the way to the other side of the house in the attic, all 40 feet. And I've got my pull string in here. I'm gonna try to not lose this one, but there's no promises. These are gonna run to the switch right next to the back deck door so that we can just have a switch that switches on both of these floodlights anytime we want to, or we can just leave it on and leave a motion sensor. But I wanted them switched together so that they would come on at the same time.
Get it?
I got one.
Hold on, I'm gonna turn off the fan so I can hear you. You got the wires? You got the wires, baby?
Yep, I got them. Can you give me more slack?
Hold on, it's stuck.
Can you push it?
Okay, you should be able to pull more.
Okay, that's all I need.
Okay, pulled it through without issue.
That was a little bit worrisome, but we got her. Here's the old pull string with wires that I cut off the end of it. So this is a good keepsake.
Pretty sure there's a wasp nest in this one.
Okay, we're not even ready for it yet.
Yeah, I know. We gotta get the cord ready.
I don't see anything obvious though, as far as bees go. The other one obviously had a little nest in there. Making some progress here, slowly but surely. Here's our island lights, just finished those up. So this is actually a three-way switch between the switch by the main door there and then a switch behind me in the main hallway. So power goes to the main hallway switch. Then we're gonna feed a 14.3 from that to this door switch here. And then the 14.2 power to the island will come there up, and it goes into this blue box. And then because of these pancake cans are very shallow boxes that can only accept one 14.2 wire, so I actually have both individually get their own wire out of this blue box right here. Now I'm gonna start on the can circuit. It's just 4 cans basically right above the main living space here. They're gonna be controlled from one of the switches on that double gang switch right there. The other one's actually gonna go to that outlet. It's gonna be half a switched outlet. The bottom's gonna be hot all the time. The top's gonna be switched, and that's in case we wanna do a built-in with any wall sconces or something that we wanna turn on with the light, that we have a switched outlet there. So with these cans though, in order to make this efficient, I try to start with the furthest can away from the switch. That's where I'll start the bitter end of my wire. And then I'm gonna come back to the next one over here, leave a loop, go boom, boom, leave a loop at that one, and then back, leave a loop, and then back to the switch. That way I can do it all in one pull, leave it connected, and I'm not constantly chopping stuff up. Our wiring punch list is finally dwindling down. I got the can lights for the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, all the island pendants and sink pendants that are going in the kitchen as well. They're all wired. The last thing I need to do in here is the under cabinet lighting stub outs. Then I have a few more outdoor fixtures to do, the sconces at the garages, the outlet on the very back of the house, and then I have to finish tying the smoke alarms downstairs together. All the ones up here are done. But that should do it for wiring, at least the rough pulls anyway. Then it's time to start going in each box, stripping the Romex off and tying the grounds together. And then I'll tuck everything else back in the box. I might go back through after inspection and actually start making up each box and putting pigtails on and getting them basically ready so that you can install a receptacle or a switch on it. That way, that'll be sure that I have gotten all the wires that I need into the box before we put insulation and drywall on. I think that's probably gonna be a good idea, but we'll see. I just wanna get through inspection at this point. Now for under cabinet wiring, there's a bunch of ways you can go about this, especially with all the low voltage and LED options out there. We chose Halo under cabinet lights. They are actually line voltage LED lights that mount up under each cabinet. We have a few different runs, and so I'm basically just running 14 gauge wire to each of the runs. Most of them are daisy chained together, and then I have one that's behind me. There's basically going to be a dry bar with a shelf that we want to put an under cabinet light, and that is going to have another wire that comes into this box here. So I'll have 2 wires going out to the under cabinet lights, and of course I'll have power in at this box, and I'll just have a switch so that they all switch on at the same time. Every light will have its own driver. I've done this one for the bar shelf already. I've marked 55 inches from the rough floor, and that should be just above the height where the bottom of the cabinets will sit. 36 inch to the countertop, plus a 1/4 inch for our LVP flooring, so 36 1/4, plus 18 for the gap under the cabinet. Leaves you at 54 1/4. So this is 3/4 inches higher. And I found this trick online to put a nail here in this stud. Basically, that makes sure that this wire is not forgotten about. I didn't really like how it's just literally a wire hanging out of the drywall that you got to mud around. There's no good way to put a junction box as far as I know. Halo does make a splice box that goes right on the inside of the wall here, so you don't actually see any Romex, or you don't see much of it anyway. And then from the splice box, it's small gauge wire that goes to your under cabinets. I'm just leaving enough 14 gauge out here that I can just turn this and run it into my under cabinets. This is probably about the minimum amount of wire you could leave out. I would say there's about a foot, maybe 14 inches. Any less than this and you'd risk not being able to make it to the fixture. I guess in that case, you'd be forced to buy the splice box so you could get the splice close to the wall. So I'm just gonna repeat that in the various runs that I have to make. It's only, I guess, 3 more next to the sink and then on either side of the stove over on this wall. And then we'll be done with under cabinet lighting stub outs. Well, as I started wiring that, my plans basically immediately changed when I realized that I only wanted one single wire at each cabinet light, and I can't, continue power and daisy chain it like you can at a normal switch box or a light box that's in the wall. I just want to be able to bring this right to my fixture and there's power there. I don't want to have to bring 2 Romex wires out of the wall for each fixture. So I did a little online searching on how this is typically done, and the one common theme that I saw when not using like strip lights is to bring all of the wires to a common junction box under the sink. So that's what I did. I mounted a 23 cubic inch junction box there. Yes, I did the box calc. It's good for 4 14-2 wires. And I technically don't even need an outlet or anything. This is just basically a junction box. However, I guess I could put an outlet in the event we wanted to do some like low voltage or something, maybe in the base cabinets or who knows what. But this would allow me to put a switched outlet along with the rest of the undercabs. So that's kind of a neat feature as well. But this allows me to run all of the wires into the central location and then have a switched power coming in from the switch. Otherwise, they would have all had to come back to this switch. Now, granted, this one is going to the bar, so one of the lights will tie in here, but the rest are going to the sink junction box, which is what this wire is labeled here. This 3-gang box just couldn't have supported all those wires coming back in. I'm pretty much at the capacity right now. Box fill is basically its own little subset of the NEC about how many wires you can put in certain size boxes. For example, this is a 44 cubic inch box, and so there's only so many conductors you can have in here, grounds. We're gonna have 3 switches in here. I believe I did the calcs on this and it was 42 cubic inches is what it came out to. So there's some nuances with this, but it's just something that I tried to pay attention the best I could to. When there were certain boxes that seemed like they might have had too many wires to it, I broke the calculator out and figured out whether it was acceptable or not. So I just finished pulling the final wires from the upstairs. It's this 14-3 right here that go to the smoke detector. We're in the shop in the back garage downstairs. I went from there to this smoke detector over here in the front garage, and from there to this last smoke detector in the utility room. So that makes 3 detectors downstairs and 4 upstairs. 1 right at the top of the stairs, 1 in the hallway, and then 1 in each of the 2 bedrooms. There's 14-2 power in the hallway upstairs, and then from that 14-3 wire links every other smoke detector in series after that. That way, they will all go off if one goes off. That extra conductor acts as a signal wire, and the devices are meant to use it to communicate with one another. The wiring behind me might look a little bit chaotic, but I promise you it's organized chaos. I'm gonna do my best to try to turn this into something good looking at the end of the day, because I like good looking utilities and that actually matters to me. So I'm gonna try to make sure things are as neat as they possibly can be. It's not gonna be out of a magazine by any means, but I want it to look like, a real electrician did it, even though I'm not an electrician. So I'm starting by referencing my Excel sheet where I've planned out which breakers which. I've already got several in here from doing the HVAC install, our temporary power, of course, one to our RV, well, septic, that sort of thing. So most of these are already in the right spot, but for all the rest, I'm gonna start just by going down the left side and right side. I'm gonna split these wires by which side of the circuit panel they're gonna enter on, and then I'm either gonna come through the side here for some of them or come through the top with quite a few of them. Then inside the panel, I'll kind of splay them out where they need to go. For rough-in inspection, our inspector doesn't want any of the breakers installed, well, at least the ones that don't have, the circuits fully terminated at the end of it. So I'm not going to, I'm just gonna get the wires in the panel for now, and then I'll deal with making up the panel and tying in my neutrals, grounds, and hots and installing the breakers once everything is actually, terminated up there with receptacles, switches, lights, that sort of thing. I didn't even bother to time lapse this because I knew it would take forever. So I spent probably 2 hours organizing these cables, getting them stapled into downwards facing runs that are gonna go down into the panel, figured out which knockouts that I'm gonna knock out to get those in there. And now I'm ready to shut the power off so I can open the panel up and put the cables in the box. That's really all that's required for rough-in. We're not supposed to hook up the breakers, which makes sense so that you can't energize any circuits that aren't completed yet. All right, we're all dressed up. I've got staples within a foot of the box for everything. I think that looks pretty neat. I'm happy with how that's all turning out. Hopefully it looks like an electrician did it. I think we're ready to button this back up, turn the power pack on. I've just made sure that all these are really tucked neatly to the side and that nothing is contacting the hot bars except for the breakers, which are supposed to be there. Don't mind this little ugly duckling up here. That's our RV temp power. So that one will come out eventually. But I'm happy with how that's all looking. If you're an electrician, let me know if you would have done anything differently as far as running all these go or how to make it any neater. And of course, this all got to get stripped and everything to actually make the box up, but this should be fine for rough-in. And that's a wrap on pulling wire for our lighting. We did in fact pass our electrical rough-in, and the inspector said it was some of the neatest work he's seen. Like I mentioned, if you'd like to get the spreadsheet we made to help with your own electrical project, it's available on our website through the link in description or pinned comment. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.